So I really wasn't sure whether to begin my sermon this way. It seemed like such a small thing that it wasn't a great sermon starter. But then I thought it over and decided to go with it. So here it is. I have started doing something different. First thing every morning. And it's made a difference. It's this, that when I wake, knowing that I still probably have, let's say, 10 more minutes before the alarm goes off, rather than waiting for the alarm to kind of pull me out of bed against my will, before that moment comes, I willfully decide to wake up. Not wake up, I'm awake, but I willfully decide to get up, throw off the covers, and start my day. Small thing, but oddly, it has given me, as I do this, an odd sense of security, an odd sense of confidence and peace of mind and a bit of energy as well. So here's, I think, the explanation that when I do that, when I'm not waiting to be kind of pulled almost against my will, but willfully, that's the key point, that to be before I'm asked, before it's required, before I must, to throw off the covers, jump onto the floor and get going with my day, brings with it this odd sensation of feeling I'm now being met by a spirit of concern and support and creativity and energy that is looking forward to working with me for the rest of the day. And oddly enough, it makes my days just go better. So I've been thinking about that. Should I share that with people? Is that sort of profound enough to bother with the sermon? And I think yes. And this gospel brings it to mind. And here's another piece of the puzzle. I heard years ago, read it from an article, tried to find it again in preparation for today, couldn't, but I have it etched in my mind, the definition, a quote from an article which defines empathy. And to preface the quote, empathy, as you may well know, not unlike compassion, is all about relationship. That empathy is the capacity you and I have, which yes, could be further developed throughout every day of our lives, but the capacity we have to feel. I think the roots of the word speak of empathy, of having a capacity to feel what others are feeling. And so the quote is, empathy is the art of losing yourself willingly, even willfully, in favor of another. I thought, wow, that's perfect. That's just great. Empathy, the art, and interesting you call it an art, because it's not something you read out of a book. There's this sort of, you bring something to it yourself and sort of master it yourself, but it is this art of setting aside what might be beneficial to yourself, your cozy, warm bed, perhaps, in the morning, setting that aside without first being asked to set it aside, but willfully taking the initiative to set it aside. And when I read this quote, I thought, I hear willing, but why willful? And this is what's sort of hitting home for me now, that yes, I could be willing. I want to be a good person, a good Christian. I'm willing to set myself aside in favor of another. But willfully is a whole other thing. Willfully is like, before they ask, I am going to set that aside, and I'm going to step out here, and I'm going to lose myself in favor of another. And with that, I think, comes with it and a willingness not only just to serve your neighbor by doing that empathetically, but this is where it comes into the gospel. I think it's also an example, analogously or otherwise, of what we all can do in relationship to God. That if you're willing to set aside yourself and the things that kind of give you protection and security day to day, stay with me, like even the warmth of a blanket in the morning. Oh, it feels so wonderful, secure. If I willfully choose to throw that off and start my day and enter into a relationship with God, comes with it a sense of security. You know, my initial example, I think, spills over to what we call divine providence. Big word, big doctrinal term, never done a sermon on it, never even quite sure what it means exactly. Providence, born in Providence, Rhode Island. I've never stopped to think, was there some significance to that? No, I'm sure there's not. But providence, what is that providence? Providence is the belief that God is holding us all, always has been, always will, in however you want to word that, envision it, but to believe that right now we're all held in a way that makes us profoundly to the core feel secure, no matter what's happening in your life. And this begins to help me explain why this crazy, crazy lady who's poor and widowed and has nothing takes the last 2 pennies, which probably would at least get her lunch, and puts them in the treasury of the temple and is applauded for it by Jesus. And I'm thinking it's Stewardship Sunday, one of 3 or 4, sets the standard rather high. Are we supposed to do that? Are we supposed to give so much of what we have away that we're now in a position to be dependent on other people for food, clothing, shelter? What I think is going on here is that this woman knows what divine providence feels like, and she is not going to let it get away from her. And she's realized that if she takes whatever remains in her possession and in her power to give away before she's asked, and in a way that is so willful and almost crazy self-forgetful, that in response she knows that she is affirming her place abiding in the divine providence of God. That is the only reason you could possibly come up with for what she's doing. That she's taking all that she has and she's putting it in the treasury, not like those who are abundantly wealthy, who gave far more than she did, but there's this unwritten or between the lines piece that I'm getting, that those folks who are, there's nothing wrong with those folks, they've got wealth but they've got abundance, but it's easy to take a little bit of your abundance, which seems like a lot, especially in her eyes, and throw that into the treasury and get on with your day. Yes, do it sort of willingly because that's what's expected of all those who visit the temple. Yeah, I'll take a little of my abundance and put it into the treasury. What if I were to do it willfully? What if I were to take a significant amount without having to meet some obligation, but do it in a way not unlike this woman, where if I did it with the right, percentage, I would suddenly realize that I have thrown off the covers of my life and all that security, and I've stepped into my day and I'm being met as a result. That this action of money in a treasury isn't just checking a box, but it's money in a treasury that welcomes me to taste divine providence. It gives me, not only in my little day, if I whip off the covers and jump into my day before the alarm goes off, a sense of, hey, I'm feeling that's different. It feels different to go into your day without being hauled into your day almost against your will, but to say, no, I am going to jump into my day, and I swear to God, you are met in your day with a spirit that says, hey, glad you came out to play. Let's get on with it. Versus, is Johnny up yet? And I'm going to just walk away, and when Johnny gets up, he'll be on his own for the rest of the day. So it is the, 3rd week of our annual Stewardship Pledge campaign, and we all, sex, money, religion, we don't want to talk about any of it. But here I am, and I'm going to tell you that when I think as a rector about our well-being, both financially as well as spiritually, worldly as well as spiritually, 2 things come to mind: relational developments, functional improvements and relational improvements is what we're about. The functional in your household, even in your person, is about the things we can fix. And usually there's a price tag attached. So yes, this church, this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful building with all its stained glass and its history, and this is a treasure. And we are here loving that we have this space that's been bestowed to us and wanting to do our bit to keep it going. That's functional. We also want that parking lot to look nice so people can park and not run into each other and be able to walk across the street. All of the things, let's paint the walls, this one needs a little attention over here, and all of that is the functional improvements. They're important. And they, as I say, have a price tag attached. And so we have to raise money to do that. And that, you know what, is as difficult as that can be to say run a capital campaign, for me as a rector, it's easier than the relational improvements. Functional improvements are important, but all they can achieve for you and me and this community together is to lower the level of dissatisfaction. We have less to moan about, less to gripe about. But once everything's fixed, it's like, relational is what we create and nurture to raise the level of satisfaction. If you aren't nurturing and cultivating relationships in your life, but you've got all the other boxes checked, where are you? So the relational piece is huge. And I think in the end that the relational is the greater priority. It's the harder one to nurture. I have to, and you have to, we come up with creative ways, especially in COVID, to get together, to have a conversation, to be heart to heart, face to face. When we do things together and achieve things together, relationally, we hum. There's vitality. I'll go on a little more. Vitality, doing a little educational piece here. Viability is there enough money in the bank? Do you have the cash health to be viable? Have you got a building that's holding together? That's viability. Vitality is what's going on in that building. Are there programs? Is there energy? Is there people bumping into each other? Is there relational improvements spinning off and having The building is everything only in so much as it supports the relational. So coming back to, quite candidly, this widow and this gospel on this period of annual stewardship campaign, I ask myself, I won't ask you, I'll ask myself, what do I need to give? And yes, time, talent, treasure, they're all important. What do I need to give and do so willfully, not to check the box, but what do I need to give? How much? What percentage? I don't know. Do I need to give to move closer to God? That God might move closer to me. That I might get a taste of what it feels like to abide in divine providence, which is what? A sense of security that nothing can touch. To be in a place where no matter what ideas and thoughts and criticisms of self-doubt and fear, all of the things that seek to penetrate that divine providence, that sense that you are being held and in the arms of God, truly, truly secure and being assisted with insights and energy and generosity of spirit. How much do we need to let go of? How much of the covers do we need to throw off and give away before we're asked, willfully, in order not to check a box for the abundant people who can just throw in abundance, but to actually feel it? It's an opportunity. What do we give in order to taste a little divine providence?